everyone, and welcome to the New Year's Evil review of for NXT. We are waiting right now as we are watching the main event of Braun Breaker versus Tommaso Ciampa. It is commercial free, which is always nice. I do like that they went commercial free for the last 15-ish minutes of the show. So we got rid of one commercial break, which is nice.
I mean, this match has felt longer than 10 minutes already, at least.
It has. It has felt like the longest match of the night because there's nothing in between.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels like there's a lot going on right now. Braun and Ciampa, it's just a lot of action and not much downtime.
Yeah, very much so. It's been a good night of wrestling. Like the in-ring wrestling has been really good on this show.
Yeah.
3 out of 4 matches, anyhow.
Yeah, 3 out of 4.
Well,
we'll get there. It wasn't the train wreck I was worried it might be. Because the 3 of them just don't mix together. And again, we'll get to it later. But I was worried that it was going to be a bit of a train wreck, and it wasn't. So
it was somewhat of a train wreck.
It was train wrecky moments.
It was more of a car wreck. Wasn't quite as bad as a train wreck.
It could have been worse. We've seen worse.
It was like an Audi hitting a cyclist on the side of the road.
Yeah. I mean, it was obviously better than that greatest women's match ever, which was, what was it? Alicia Fox versus
Melina.
Melina or Cameron or whatever the hell it was from Tough Enough.
No, it was her saying that it was Melina versus Alicia Fox. Oh my god!
And it was Cameron saying
it. Yeah.
Okay. I'm like, Cameron's in there somewhere.
I try not to remember that Cameron was ever a thing.
Girl, bye.
Yeah, and that pin, quote unquote, right?
Yeah. She was one of the weird
fall off the rope.
Yeah, he did.
Oh no, he's hesitating.
Goof.
That hesitation over what happened last time.
No. They're telling a nice in-ring story here.
Yeah. 2.0 has done that for the most part. For what are we at? Almost 4 months now since we've been to 2.0.
Seems like it, yeah.
Yeah.
I think it was. Ooh, Ciampa's busted open though.
A little bit, yeah.
I missed where that happened.
Yeah, same.
I like that 2.0. Like, people are like, "Oh, it's not about the wrestling anymore." I'm like, it is. Like, the weekly product In and Out isn't as wrestling focused as Black and Gold is, but when they go and they put on these big shows and these big matches, they try to make it just as wrestling focused as ever.
I mean, even the weekly shows are wrestling focused just in a way that people aren't used to.
Yeah.
It's focused on, working on individual spots and short matches and short exposure for these new people coming in to get used to the spots, to get used to the moves that they're pulling off, to learn the craft. It's about learning the wrestling.
Yeah.
And then as they grow and build and become more top-tier talent, they start getting featured in the bigger feuds like we've seen tonight with, I think every match tonight has got close to 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the women's match was closer to the 10 or 15, but yeah.
Well, and this one probably by the end is going to end up being 10 to 15.
Yeah.
Clearly some overrun happening here, though. So
yeah, we've just hit the 10 o'clock hour here on the East Coast for me.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And for me.
Yes, Astrid as well. Astrid, you could be live at this show, but you're here with us instead, and we appreciate it.
See how special you guys are? See, I'm here.
You just didn't want to have to refund your Scream tickets again.
Oh, let's not talk about that.
Ooh, that didn't go the way they wanted it to.
Let's just say,
I know you guys are. Yeah. Now Cody's just seen it.
Oh,
yeah, I'm
they
in the
turned
process.
it into something impressive, but whoa.
Yeah, that was
that
scary.
almost went real bad, real quick.
Yeah, I feel like Ciampa saved them.
There's been a couple of those tonight of spots that I thought were going to go real bad.
Mm-hmm.
We do have some fans in the audience already as we're watching the end of the show. Happy New Year's Evil, everyone. Thank you, Choco Gaming. Happy New Year's Evil to you. And I only enjoy, it's the only tea I enjoy, NXT. Thank you, Alex. We greatly appreciate it. And your punnage was fantastic. So which spot felt more dangerous? The spot in the unification match or that spot we just saw? Because that one in the unification match was really crazy tough.
Yeah. I think these two looked like they were in control the whole time. Like they lost a little bit of grip, but they were in control. I felt like that Roddy and Carmelo spot looked a little bit more chaotic.
Chaotic. The home of Carmelo Hayes prior to NXT 2.0.
Oh. Not how I thought that was going, but it was an interesting collapse from the table.
It was.
Oh my gosh.
I do love the different feeds, so we're all at different speeds. So I'm sitting here watching live on like the quickest feed, which is just the USA Network on television. And then Cody's like a couple seconds behind me on RS. I think it's RSN.
TS or no, yeah. I mean it's Sportsnet. Sportsnet 360 in Canada.
Yeah. And then we got Ashton on the USA app, which is a couple seconds behind Cody.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm trying to, keep my reactions to a minimum if I can. Cody said something before we went on the air, and I'm interested to get other people's opinion, in the chat. What do you guys think of Breaker's gear here? Cody, and I agree with Cody. I think this black gear is a lot better for him than his NXT 2.0 spray painted gear that he has normally.
Yeah, the rainbow spackle just didn't fit the character for me. I really like just the black with the plain red name on it. I also just really appreciate the street gear he's been wearing when he comes out for the talking segments. I wish he could wrestle in something more akin to that because I feel like that really fits his character.
I feel like I can take it more seriously when he has a solid color versus a rainbow splatter.
Mm-hmm. And the black is it's still very reminiscent of the family. His dad wrestled in black. His uncle for years is synonymous with wrestling in black.
FTE? FTE? Two. No.
Yup. Just a 2 count. Choco Gaming jumping in on our topic, saying this gear makes him look sleeker. And we got Squirtle over here. Always good to have a Squirtle in the room in case the fire breaks out. Sorry, I had to when I heard it. I'm like, that's just true, right?
I should probably turn my notifications off for this.
You're fine. Depends how much you want the notifications going off during the show.
Dings and squirtles and whatever else.
Oh, the straps are coming down.
Is he actually going to do it? The breaker recliner?
Oh.
I love the mask.
Yeah, the dude with the...
There's a guy with a clown one on the side, like on the left side. I saw him earlier, like where Ciampa is, kind of that angle. It looks so funny on him too.
Really?
Cody's dog does not agree with the finish as much as Cody was hoping that Ciampa would retain tonight. Unfortunately,
Yeah.
that has not been the case.
I
Just
wanted
letting
to see
people know that means we may be getting a run-in tonight. We might be getting a run-in tonight now that
Everybody be on your
Having
best
been
behavior. We don't want to end up in the boss's office.
you know.
Never.
Might have to kick Pluggo out of his chair for a night.
It is a good question. Do we think Pluggo just sleeps in the office just because he knows he's going to end up there again?
Might as well save yourself some energy and time and just stay there.
We've got Choke Goat Gaming with maybe it's the dark gear, but tonight felt most like Breaker is the new cross of the brand. Ooh, I don't like the idea of him being cross of NXT. That doesn't bode well for the main
Letty.
roster.
Stop. I mean, it was basically writing on the wall when he kicked out of the fairy tale ending there, though.
It pretty much was. But it's a nice match. It was a good match.
It was a really good match.
Mm-hmm.
Curious to see where they take it next, but it was a very good match.
And there's still a lot for Ciampa to do with a lot of these young guys. Like, even if he's done with Breaker, you still have Carmelo Hayes, with him having been claimed to have been the A champion all this time. That could be a next feud for Carmelo Hayes.
Yeah,
All kinds of good
also
stuff
the
that you can
possibility
do.
we have like a tiebreaker rematch between these two.
Yeah.
We could have Tommaso kind of as a gatekeeper to Breaker now. I don't know where Breaker goes next if it's not a rematch. They haven't really done a lot to set up who's next.
With that being said, the show has just ended on my end, and we're getting ready to go to a movie. I don't know what movie's coming up next, but I'm going to turn that off. We are going to go ahead and give Cody a chance to switch rooms, and we're going to play the intro. So we'll see you guys all in about 30 seconds. Hello and welcome. Cody will be, like I said, he will be right back. He is just switching rooms to get into his podcasting room. We do have Ashley with her hair. Wait, she has all kinds of necklaces over there somewhere.
I can put them on. They're comfortable.
No, it's fine. Don't bother. The hat's off. It's all good. We've got Choke Goat Gaming. Sure, it'll be something during the show, but how many from tonight or just recent shows do you think could be call-ups for the Rumble? Call-ups from the Rumble meaning that they're going to stay once they're called up, or people that are just going to pop in for the Rumble as an NXT superstar? I think there's at least 5 to 10 women that could end up in the Rumble that are NXT superstars currently. I think that we're going to see a much smaller number when it comes to the men's Rumble. You could see 2 or 3 in that one. But yeah, the women's Rumble, I think there could be a bunch that pop up. I only think there's going to be 1 or 2 that stay. I think Raquel stays. I think Dakota stays. And depending on what they want to do, Io Shirai.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, this is NXT. I'm Ed, joined by over there. That I almost figured this out. This way. She's over there, Astrid. And of course, down here we got Mr. Cody.
Yeah.
Back in my
The band
space.
is back together.
Yes, the band is back together. The 2-man 1-woman band, as it was called on when I made the 3MB comparison.
Yeah.
Cody, it is great to have you back. The ship is obviously going to right itself tonight. We're not going to have any cross chatter. We're not going to veer off into any unnecessary talks. It's going to be fantastic.
Not at all.
Right.
I caught a bit of your answer to Choked Goat's question there. I missed the end of it, Ed, but I would like to chime in. Hopefully, I'm on the same page as you because I don't know exactly where you went with it, but I personally don't think we're going to see any as permanent call-ups. I think we could see a lot of surprises, one-offs, showcases. I don't think anybody from the current NXT is going to be a mainstay on the main roster after a Rumble debut right now.
Yeah, and the only thing that me and Astrid agreed on was that we would foresee a couple of people in the men's Rumble popping in, but a lot less than we would expect to see in the women's Rumble. I said we could see up to 5 to 10 people in the women's Rumble pop in. And then at least 2 or 3 of them, I think, could be full call-ups, with Raquel probably being on her way up without coming back down. I think Dakota might be on her way and not coming back down. And then depending what they feel like with Io Shirai, she's one that I could see, being one that gets called up and doesn't necessarily come back down. But otherwise, I agree. There's not going to be a ton of call-ups that stay up, especially on the men's side. I don't think there's any on the men's side.
Yeah, the only one I could see on the men's would be maybe Walter.
Yeah. And I think Grayson Waller is going to be in the Rumble because I think he's going to eliminate AJ Styles.
Yeah.
We have our friend Dar Amazing, as always, saying, hey, NXT crew. Hello, Dar Amazing. We do want to go ahead and give a quick shout-out to our sponsors. So we're first going to pop in and shout out our friends at RK Athletics. Rich King and RK Athletics do a fantastic job. All kinds of personal training stuff. He's had all kinds of stuff on his Twitter today about different workouts and different ways to do workouts and things like that. So follow him on Twitter, RK Athletics 1. You can also follow him, I believe, on Instagram at the same place, RK Athletics 1. They do in-person training in the Edmonton, Alberta area, and they do virtual personal training right now if you're outside of that area. So go ahead and get a hold of Rich. He's a fantastic dude and a great Canadian pro wrestler, from what I understand. Cody can give us more information about how good he is, but I've heard good things from Parrish.
I defer to Parrish on that one.
Yeah.
Parrish is the one that's been in the ring with Rich. I defer to Parrish on all things wrestling in Edmonton.
And we also have, as we should always do, we are going to shout out our friends at Manscaped. Right now, you can get 20% off and free shipping from manscaped.com when you use the promo code LOVEWrestling. We'll have more about this later, but remember, manscaped.com, 20% off and free shipping when you use the promo code LOVEWrestling. And one more thing, if that wasn't all enough, we got another great thing that we announced last week, and we're going to continue to announce it today. whatamaneuver.net/collections/love-wrestling-ca is where you can find the Love Wrestling shop at whatamaneuver.net. What a Maneuver, fantastic people opening up a great merch opportunity for all of us. And you might see, in the near future, an NXT shirt up there. Just saying, you might see one coming up there. So keep your eyes peeled to that shop as all of us in the Slack chat have been talking about ideas for new shirts and things like that. I know Astrid has a design that somebody created for her. So there's all kinds of fun stuff happening over there. With that being said, do you guys think we should do our typical no, down racing? It's not time. We don't have to leave the room just yet. We'll go ahead and do the two men read later on for the man.
Why am I getting kicked out so early? What is this?
We're not kicking you out. We're not kicking. You're free to stay for the Manscaped, but I've always promised I won't make you have your reaction on screen for the Manscaped reads.
I won't make you guys laugh, so I'd rather just stay.
So do you guys think we should do our typical what did we love about this show? Because I think we all loved pretty much everything. Or should we just go match by match? I'll let you guys decide.
I mean, we didn't even discuss what our favorites were, but I mean, we could try and, go for it that route. And
all right. So Cody, you're going to go first then.
Mine, I'm pretty sure I have to go with the Imperium versus Riddle and MSK match.
There you go.
Imperium and Riddle and MSK as a whole, they just are two so different groups in the ring, completely different styles, completely different mannerisms. They gel as competitors so well.
Hold Hold on.
Oh,
We have a special run-in, so we're going to go ahead and
Hello,
change-
friends. Hello. Isn't it a great day? Isn't it a wonderful, terrific, fantastic day?
Anything you can get the boss on NXT has to be a great day.
Don't butter me up, Cody, though I appreciate it. No, it's always a great day when I've got the opportunity to hop on and say hello, but mostly celebrate me and Ed, but me. And mostly, of course, me. Everybody thought that when we did our draft here a few months ago on Love Wrestling, they said, Spencer and Ed, but Spencer, how could you possibly justify taking Braun Breaker in round number 9? And Ed and I discussed and we debated and we chatted about it internally. But I'm just here to come and say I'm right and Ed is right, but I'm right. Good night, everybody.
Sadly so.
Oh, that was great. You know what? I'm leaving the 2-man thing up because I think it's better than the 3-man. No offense to Zach. I love Zach and everything is done, but I like this setup better. So we're going to leave it at the 2-man.
Okay.
That being said, back to Riddle and MSK versus Imperium.
Yes. Lost my train of thought as soon as I saw Spencer's face show up on my screen here. But as a whole, this match, I feel like it was really well done. I feel like each of the teams got to hit their spots. We got Imperium dominating early, Walter standing up and standing through all 3 members of the opposing team and just looking like the ring general and like a monster on that side, like basically the X factor for his team. And then we got it turned around where we had Riddle kind of standing up to the entire Imperium for a while there as well. But at the end of the day, it almost looked like a little bit of lack of communication on the Imperium side here. Wade and Vic did a good job trying to bring attention to it too, that Walter was doing a lot of standing off to the side, directing traffic, and wasn't actually being involved as much as this match went on. And ultimately it made it so Riddle and MSK were able to isolate Bartel and Eichner, beat them down, knock Walter out of the match with a couple good suplexes from Riddle long enough to finish off and get the pin. I believe it was Marcel Bartel ate the pin at the end of the day there. I think this sets up well. I mentioned it a little bit in our pre-chat there as well. This is obviously going to lead to MSK getting their rematch against Imperium for the titles in the near future. I think we're setting up that MSK can win those titles, and we might see Imperium end up on Raw sooner rather than later, chasing RK Bro for the titles, trying to get their revenge for Riddle costing them this match.
Yeah. Astrid, your thoughts?
yeah, this is probably my top favorite of the night. Like the timing of everything was really well done. Especially the top rope move onto Imperium on the outside. That was probably one of my favorite parts of the match. But yeah, I did notice the same thing. It was always like trying to point out how Walter's giving directions, but the guy's always like doing the work, but Walter's not getting in it too much. I did like how we mentioned in the chat, like Walter wasn't the one getting pinned during the match. We're like hoping that wouldn't happen, so that will build up to something long later. So I'm glad it did happen that way. But yeah, I thought it was super interesting, the chemistry they had. I was waiting to see how it will be with MSK and Riddle. And even from the entrance with the scooters, the gear, the hair, everything, they matched up so well together. I was not expecting it to be that way. And obviously later on when they said goodbye to him, everything like was so well done together. But I think you guys saw the report that it was supposed to be Jeff Hardy. So it made me wonder how different that would have been with Jeff Hardy in the ring instead as well.
But like I've seen the report that says that Jeff Hardy was supposed to come down, and I don't know if the report specifically says that he was supposed to be the shaman. I don't know if I would have liked the idea of bringing Hardy in to be the shaman to the Weed guys with all of Jeff's prior issues. Like that just seems like a bad idea. Like I'm all for like Riddle or like, you know, we went through the whole thing with Jeff being an addict and, you know, Jeff being clean and everything with Sheamus, and we're like, no, we're using his addiction as a clean, like, no, I'm clean and he's defending himself. I'm like, do we really want to put him with the Weed guy? Like, it seems weird that would have been the choice. I think, and like I said, I haven't read the Fightful story, but if Jeff Hardy was meant to come down like the report says it was, I think he would have been in the AJ spot. I think instead of getting Grayson versus AJ, I think it might have been Grayson versus Jeff. Because I think you can do the Hall of Fame talk, because I think Jeff is a more surefire Hall of Famer for his WWE work than AJ is. Like, obviously, AJ's a Hall of Famer for everything he's done, whether it be TNA, WWE, all of it as a whole. Ring of Honor, like, New Japan, everything that AJ's done, he's a Hall of Famer and he's a no doubter. But like Jeff Hardy's more of a WWE Hall of Famer. Mm-hmm. So with the way the story went in the beginning with that, I'm like, maybe this was all kind of planned for Jeff originally. And that makes a lot of sense.
I agree there, Ed, that I definitely think that feels like a more natural spot for Jeff. I see how you could put Jeff in the shaman role as well. But they've done it so many times over with Jeff and his addictions and stuff. We've seen it with Punk. We've seen it with Sheamus. We've seen it with Randy. We've all over the place. They've done that, and to bring him back and actually put him in a position where he's talking to guys that are, making all of these getting high innuendos doesn't seem right. AJ has his stuff going with Almost right now. That I think it would have made more sense for Jeff to be in this spot as opposed to having AJ pulling double duty on both shows.
Mm-hmm. It's like I said, it's a thought. I mean, like Cody says, there's been so many times where they've used his addiction, but every time they've used his addiction, they've made him the baby face in it all by being like, no, I had problems and I'm overcoming them. I've had problems and I'm clean. A lot of, it's not like they're using Jeff's addiction and putting him in places where he's going to be, like, yes, they do the spots with, Sheamus trying to get him drunk, and the CM Punk one where Punk was like, yeah, I'll get you drunk, yada, yada, things like that. But I think it would have made a lot more sense for him to, like I said, to have been working with Grayson Waller. The match would have been really fun to see between the two of them. And, an older Jeff Hardy kind of on his way out the door versus a young Grayson Waller. It would have been fun. So, but I'm really enjoying the AJ stuff. Back to the MSK stuff. One of the things I noticed is there was a specific spot earlier in the match where Walter's in the ring and he's trying to tag out. And he's just got his hand out waiting for either one of them to tag. And they're both like, no, we're good. Like, no, you can go ahead. And he's like, no, one of you tag me. And Bartel's like, fine. And he gives him this really animated, big, huge tag. And I'm like, I don't want to see Imperium break up. But this is more of that continued thing. We've been seeing this, especially from Marcel Bartel. We've been seeing this bit of a Americanization of his foreign heel character. And it starts with the Toxic Attraction stuff, where, Toxic Attraction came up during their interview segment, and Bartel was obviously the one who was smitten with TA. And it's like, all right, they've been doing little things here to show that Marcel Bartel is becoming too comfortable in America. And I wouldn't mind seeing a handicap match of Walter versus Imperium, where for any reason, and then just being like, and if I win, you guys have to straighten up and fly right. And let Walter beat the two of them. Like, just let him win. I know it's sacrilege to beat an established tag team with a single star. But if you're going to get ready to push Walter to the top of the main roster, how great would it be to have him doing it by getting his boys to act right before he comes up? And beating the two of them. Again, fantasy booking a bit, but that's like where I went with part of this. The tag, the three-way dive to the outside was fantastic. The finish of the match was MSK hitting their finisher. Does it have a name? Because I don't remember hearing it, and if I did, I just forgot.
Not that I recall ever hearing.
Okay. So I wrote down MSK hits their finish, then Riddle hits a floating bro, and that's all done to Eichner. And then Riddle grabs Bartel and hits him with an RKO, or as Wade called it, a Riddle KO.
Riddle KO, yeah.
And they get the pin. It was fun. It was great. It got about 15, 20, it felt like.
It felt longer than that, though.
It did good. It started about 10 of, the bell rang about 10 of, and I felt like it went through almost 10 past. It went through the top of the hour, which is nice. They trusted it to be the draw segment to keep people interested on the other side. I really enjoyed it. Astrid, and then as Astrid said earlier, we'll do this now. MSK and Riddle are outside, and Riddle goes ahead and says to the guys, "It's goodbye for now, not forever, but for now." And he scoots off. I would say he drives off, but because it's Matt Riddle, and of course it's Matt Riddle, he scoots off into the distance on his little scooter, and that's the end of Riddle and NXT, I'm going to imagine, for the foreseeable future. We do have Parrish coming in. What about the Bro KO? The Bro KO was great, but that's not what Wade called it, so we called it the Riddle KO because Wade Barrett doesn't know what's going on in the main roster, which is really funny. Riddle rides off into the moonlight. Yes, into the moonlight. He scoots off into the moonlight. Astrid, your thoughts. What was your favorite thing of the night? Oh, Cody's got something first, and then we'll go.
Oh, I was just going to ask. So if it's a Riddle KO, does that mean it's a Riddle Kenneth Orton?
It could be Riddle Kenneth Orton.
Riddle's
That
not
might have changed his name.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised.
Astrid, your thoughts on the show as a whole, and what was your favorite segment?
Yeah, I think that was between that and like the opening, Carmelo and Roddy, probably my favorite things for the night. Overall, it was a good show for me. I think the ladies match was the one that kind of let me down a little bit compared to everybody else, unfortunately. But I enjoyed it overall, though, especially compared to like how it's been lately, how it was like Halloween Havoc with like their go home show and everything. I feel like they built up this one really well this time around.
All right, and so you've said that you want to talk about the opening match. Let's go ahead. We have Carmelo Hayes versus Roderick Strong unifying the title, and thank God they went with the original idea for the name, which is just calling it the North American Championship, because I'd heard rumors all weekend that it was going to be called the North American Cruiserweight Championship. And I'm like, no, you don't unify a title and then add all the names together and call it the title's name. It's not what you do. So thankfully, the new champion will be the North American champion. Astrid, go ahead and give your thoughts on this match.
Yeah, overall, I'm glad they picked this as the opener because it was a good way to pick the audience up from like the get-go. And I like the chemistry between them. I overall, I mentioned it to you guys, I love the reaction that Trick had with every single near fall that we had during the match. Because every time the near fall happened, I just wanted to look at him and see his face afterwards. They didn't show us Malcolm that much, but they showed us Trick more often than anything. But overall, I think it was really interesting. It was really well done. I had a feeling that Carmelo was going to keep it because it will be better if he has the 2 belts, at least for tonight. And maybe next week they'll give him a new championship. We'll see. That's the part that will be kind of interesting to see next week with him.
Yeah. This match was really, really good. It started hot. It kept going. There was a lot of chain wrestling. There was a lot of reversals. The guys really knew each other was to expect. We had a really awkward spot where Strong went up for a superplex, and somewhere halfway through, he was trying to get Carmelo over, or Carmelo reversed it. I don't know what happened. And Carmelo landed almost on the top of his head, and he got the arm over on Roderick Strong, and I don't know what was supposed to be going on. And he almost pinned Roderick Strong there, and I was very confused. I'm just glad he got him all the way over, because at halfway through that move and 3/4 of the way through, it looked like Carmelo was landing on the top of his head. This match was just everything I wanted it to be and more. It got 15-ish plus minutes. I think they could have easily done an additional 10 and been fine. But I also think that they did everything they needed to do in this match to get over what they needed to and get in and get out. Yes, Parrish, we can say Roderick wasn't strong enough tonight. Cody brought up something interesting. I'm gonna say it now, and then I'm gonna have Cody defend it and talk about it. After the match, after Carmelo hits his leg drop and gets the 1, 2, 3, they have a lingering shot of the pin, but more importantly of Malcolm Bivens in the background. And Malcolm Bivens has this irritated angry look on his face. And Cody said in our chat, was this the kind of a look of Malcolm Bivens thinking about getting rid of Roderick Strong from the Diamond Nine?
It gave me the thought, just in the moment, it gave me that thought crossing my mind that I don't even know if I'd call it angry, but it was definitely irritated, disappointed, frustration showing in his face there. And I mean, Malcolm Bivens is so good at what he does that I would believe what he's showing is what he was intending to show, but there's always the possibility maybe he was trying to go for something different too. But it really crossed my mind that maybe this is the point where they decide that Roderick is cut from the Diamond Mine and they go ahead with the Creed brothers and Ivy in the Diamond Mine, and we don't need Roderick Strong anymore. I mean, Hachiman is there. Hachiman's hanging around. Today we got our actual return of Hachiman for a couple weeks that he hasn't been around for. Still have no idea if he's ever actually going to wrestle matches or not, but it feels like Ivy Nile should be the star of this group going forward. Even the backstage segment we got later on in the night where they're checking on Roderick in the medics room, and Ivy has, she's the one that stands up to Vaughn as he crosses her path. In weeks past, she's the one that steps up to the men that are trying to come, like to Trick and Mello in the ring, and to everybody else that's trying to come at Roddy. She's the bodyguard. She's the one standing up to them. That I could see the Creeds and Ivy at Malcolm and Hachiman's direction, turning on Roddy, cutting him. And I don't know when Roddy's contract's up. Maybe Roddy goes his own way and, heads over somewhere else to another company. Maybe he moves up to a main roster position. Maybe he's just out on his own and feuds with the Diamond Mine for a while. Not sure, but it definitely became an idea to me that he may not be long for that group.
But, I mean, it was a fantastic opener. It reminded me of those WCWs where they open with the Cruiserweight title matches, and you just get 10, 15 minutes of the guys just floating around and having a fantastic match.
I don't want to make this show about Impact, but Impact does that every single week opening with the X Division, and that's exactly what this match felt like. It felt like an X Division match.
Which is great. Like, if you're going to steal anything from Impact, please steal their X Division stuff, because their X Division has been the greatest thing that Impact's done every year for the last 20 years, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And they've made tremendous strides in all kinds of facets of wrestling. But that X Division, no matter what generation of Impact you're talking about, the X Division is always that one thing that is going to be there. That's always going to be strong. Especially since we're talking about January 4th, which was 12 years ago when Hulk Hogan came in and decided they were going to go head-to-head with Raw on Monday nights, which is always a wonderfully smart idea because that failed miserably. But yeah, this was a great match. For me, you guys have taken both of my things. I mean, obviously,
it would only make sense for you.
I want Mandy in many ways.
Brag about your draft,
No. Spencer was already on for that. Spencer. And I also thought he was going to gush about Braun Breaker and all. Nope. He just wanted to talk about Wrestle Draft, which I think was great. But no, I'm going to go ahead and skip to two things I really liked, because one of them doesn't really matter and it's just a gimmick. But that chopper entrance from Mandy Rose with the Black Angel's wings, completely unnecessary chef's kiss, because I didn't know I wanted it. I didn't need it, but I'll take it anyways, because why not? But more importantly, we have a backstage segment after the Cruiserweight and North American title unification match, where you have Tommaso Ciampa and Daddy backstage. And Daddy's like, oh, you're back here. And he's like, yeah, I've come to NXT. I'm going to deal with Grayson Waller. And they're both like, yeah, we're on the same page. We really like that. And AJ leaves. And Cody pointed out in the chat as something that was very interesting. Ciampa says, welcome back to NXT. And Cody goes, was he here before? He was here a couple weeks ago. But more importantly than that, during the build to the NXT involvement in Survivor Series, he was on that show too. Well, one of those shows where the Raw crew came in and did stuff. And I think if I remember correctly, Ciampa was the one who stood up to him in that segment. So I think that's where they're going with it. I didn't fact check that, so I don't know. But I do know that him and the Gallows and Anderson did show up in the build to Survivor Series.
I was going to say, Dara Mason's going to tell us.
Yes. AJ was there in 2019 and saw Finn, I think. Yep, it's very possible he saw Finn too. I'm sure they did Bullet Club stuff. Bobby is here. Dream Match Bobby. Hello, welcome. And just like Spencer always loses to in the POS show, Parrish is claiming victory in Wrestle Draft. We're going to ignore Wrestle Draft. I wasn't planning on ever bringing it up again, but Spencer was the one who brought it up, so I felt like it needed to be re-uttered. Then AJ comes out and he cuts a really cool promo talking about, at first I thought it was going to be a heel promo. He's like, yeah, I came into the WWE and I skipped NXT. I didn't come here. I just debuted in the Royal Rumble. And I'm like, AJ, don't remind people that you didn't have the camera on you when you debuted. They lingered on Roman. And he talks about how, then he was on Raw and he was on SmackDown. And then a couple months later, he was at WrestleMania. I'm like, all right, cool. All this makes sense. This is great. It really sounds like a heel promo. And then he's like, but I wish I was here because I miss this because there's something special here. And the crowd starts chanting NXT. And he's like, it's that passion. It's that desire. It's that passion that nobody else has. And I'm like, interesting. And Cody brings it up in the chat, in our Slack chat about it. It gives you that Impact feel because these are the same fans who would have watched AJ grow up in Impact because it's Orlando, Florida, and it's all the people who probably went to Impact tapings in the old days. And it's people who've seen AJ throughout his career. Yeah. But more importantly, I wish I had the drop for this. It's all about drive. It's all about power. Yes. We stay hungry, we devour. That being said, there's a lot of comparisons that I make in my own mind to NXT and NXT 2.0 being like the early days of Impact because there's only so many wrestling companies that have that following where the crowd chants the name of the company. It was early days TNA where the crowd would chant TNA all the time. It's old school ECW when the crowd would chant ECW. It's NXT where the crowd chants NXT. I don't watch enough AEW to know if they do it. They probably do because they feel like they're ECW. They're not, but they feel like they are. So let them have it too. But it's those companies with those fan bases that feel a connection to the product in a special way that Raw and SmackDown don't do because you don't hear people chant Raw, Raw, Raw. You don't hear people chant
WWE.
Yeah, you don't hear
it sounds
these
terrible though.
It sounds awful. Like NXT works, TNA works, ECW works, AEW works, WWE, nope. WCW, nope. Raw, nope. SmackDown, nope. But it's this really special feeling. He's like, I want to be here. I want to do this. And I'm like, that's cool. I love AJ coming down and kind of doing this. I also could see AJ having these great matches as the gatekeeper of NXT from NXT to the main roster. Like when people think they're big enough to go to the main roster, they go to William Regal and they're like, I want to go to the main roster. Fine. You get to wrestle AJ Styles. And if you can beat AJ Styles, you get to go ahead and move up to the main roster. I wasn't at the show. Cody will have to answer this for us.
No.
No.
The only real chant I remember specifically from that night was the crowd singing Welcome to the Black Parade.
Okay.
During the Leo London match.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah.
But I also had potentially a few too many drinks that night. So,
I mean, if I were there, I would have had all the drinks too. So I totally hear you on that one. So he finally calls out Grayson Waller, and Grayson comes out, and AJ's in his ring gear, and I'm like, oh, Grayson's in his street clothes. We're not going to get the match. Like I thought maybe AJ'd be able to goad him into a match, but he's not even in his ring gear, so there's no way it's happening. And Grayson comes out and he does, his typical Grayson Waller stuff, which is great heel work, but it's essentially nothing. And AJ tries to goad him into a match, and he's like, no, we're on Grayson Waller time. We're not on phenomenal time. And he's like, but you know what? I'll wrestle you next week. And I'm like, cool. AJ comes back again next week. And we're going to finally get the match. And I'm very excited about finally getting the match. At this point, I thought Grayson was going to walk away and that we were going to go ahead and get an open challenge where we'd go ahead and have, like an Andre Chase or an Odyssey Jones or somebody like that that Grayson's defeated recently step up to AJ, and AJ would be able to defeat them as well. And it would give them a little bit of a rub to work with somebody like AJ, and then we'd be able to move on with the night. But no, it just ends up in a little fight, and AJ gets the better of Grayson Waller, and he's about to hit the phenomenal forearm, and the segment ends. Astrid, what were your thoughts as I basically run down the whole thing just a moment ago?
Yeah, I like how you said Odyssey Jones, because when you said Andre Chase, I was thinking of Odyssey Jones, like he will be the one to answer that. So I thought that would have been interesting. But you're just like, how do you have AJ on gear and waste him on NXT like that? That's what I was expecting, something like more physical than what happened with Grayson, at least. But I'm glad at least we're getting the match next week, so that'll be cool. More AJ, I don't mind that on NXT. But yeah, I wonder what after that maybe they'll just like keep it that way, or they'll extend his visit, let's put it like that. But I'm like, I don't mind seeing AJ in NXT in any way. So
no, the more AJ in NXT is not going to be a complaint for me. I still think that somehow this ends up with Omos being brought down to NXT to be the heater for Grayson Waller, because I don't think he's ready for the main roster to be in a singles push. And I'd love to see them. And I'd love to see them be like, well, we can keep working with them down here, and we can put him with Grayson, which continues the AJ stuff. Because if AJ's not going to wrestle Edge at WrestleMania, I kind of wouldn't hate seeing AJ versus Grayson at Mania. Like opening night, night one. Like that'd be kind of fun. I know we're going to get it next week, but like if there's something else in the Rumble, you can kind of keep pushing this ball down the line too and have another match and have this great break. Like you can have AJ win next week and then have Grayson eliminate him from the Rumble and then go ahead and, get to this final straw down at the end where it's Grayson Waller winning at WrestleMania over AJ Styles. I mean, do I want AJ to lose at Mania? No, but I can see AJ also being like, no, I'll put over the kid at Mania. That's fine. Whatever. Go ahead. Is the check going to clear? Check clear? Yeah, cool. All right, cool. Cody, your thoughts on the AJ Waller stuff?
I don't think we see Grayson go over on AJ. I think this is a situation where we see Grayson hold his own and put in an extremely impressive performance against a guy the likes of AJ Styles. I do not think by any stretch of the imagination we are about to see Grayson Waller go over clean on a former world champion and basically first ballot WWE Hall of Famer at this point, multiple time tag team champion, mid-card champion. Like Grayson is only this will be maybe his 6th match total that we've seen on TV. I don't think we're seeing him go over here. We might see some shenanigans where we do see him bring down Omos to extend the AJ Omos stuff on Raw while also, getting a cheap victory. I don't think he's going over clean. If in the most likely of situations here, I think it's just Grayson puts on an outstanding performance, loses clean to AJ, and wins the respect of the crowds as a guy who can hold his own in the ring.
Very possible. Like I said, I'm just thinking of things that a veteran like AJ Styles would offer. And in my mind, I can see a guy like AJ Styles being like, yeah, I can put the kid over, like he doesn't have to, and nor should he lose to AJ Styles. Because like I said, like Cody says, there's no reasons why AJ Styles should be losing to a guy like Grayson Waller. But I'm like, if you can get the story just right and use Omos like Cody said, you can get Grayson a win. He doesn't have to win clean. You can put him over. I think the point of the feud is to make Grayson Waller feel like a big deal, and by hook or by crook, him winning continues this legend killery type gimmick that he's running, where he got rid of Johnny Gargano, and he can try to, claim to get rid of AJ Styles from NXT and things like that.
If you start putting over 2.0 talents on main roster talents, though, you start running into that same problem that the Black and Gold brand had, where you start comparing the NXT crew to the main roster crew and saying that NXT should be held in the same regard. We saw it tonight with Riddle getting the pin on Imperium as a main roster talent coming down and ending up standing tall against an NXT talent. I don't think WWE wants to be in a position where they're putting over a developmental talent over a bona fide superstar like an AJ Styles.
And I can entirely 100% agree with you there. That's something I hadn't thought through enough, but I can totally see that point. I'm just thinking of AJ Styles as, you know, the old school veteran wrestler who's like, my whole point in all of this is to make him look good. And he's not worried about what the company's going to think. He's just like, how do I make the kid look as best I can? All right, I put him over in the ring.
Yeah, you can put guys over without having to go out on your back, though. And I think AJ Styles is a master of doing that in a way that he can make Grayson Waller look superb while also still taking the W for himself.
Yeah, absolutely. We got Bobby in here with a couple of questions and statements, so I'm going to go ahead and pop a couple of these up here. I don't know who Nikita Lyons is, but apparently she wrestled Amari Miller on 205 Live. Again, it's a show that I always forget even still exists. That being said, it's great to have talent getting time on television for those who actually watch these shows, and it's great. I can't wait to see who Nikita Lyons is and what happens with that, but good that she's putting on fun matches. He also says that he wants to see Tiffany Stratton have more matches. She had her debut last week. We almost got her as part of a six-way, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes.
But Daddy doesn't want her in bad situations.
Daddy doesn't want her in bad situations. And she said that these girls are just ew.
What I just thought, can we please have Ciampa as her daddy?
I know.
I was about to say that.
Oh, God. Wouldn't it be funny if this was Willow all along?
Oh.
Bobby also wants to see Mandy Rose versus Kaylee Ray. That's a match I think this match is coming, and I think it's our Mania women's match. I do. I think it's our NXT takeover-y style, whatever they're going to call the WrestleMania week type show. I think that's what we're getting as our women's main event, which is going to be Mandy versus Kaylee Ray. He also says, and we're just going to reiterate it because we've answered it a little bit earlier in the show, but I don't think Bobby was here, which NXT wrestlers from 2.0 will compete at the Rumble this year. Probably a handful of the women's talent because they don't have enough women on the main roster and there's not enough legends that they can convince to come back that are going to fill out 30 people. So they're going to need a few here and there. I say anywhere between 5 and 10 of the NXT women's talents, including people like Io Shirai, including people you're going to see Kacy Catanzaro. I will put money on that one because she's going to do her Kofi spot. Because that's honestly what they signed her for. You're going to see your Dakota Kais and your Raquel Gonzalez's. Some of them might stay, like your Raquels and your Dakotas, maybe your Io Shirai's. But at the end of the day, you're going to see a bunch of women's talent from the NXT side. From the men's side, like I said, I think it's Grayson Waller, and I think it's somebody like an Odyssey Jones or a Tony D'Angelo or our Carmelo Hayes.
I don't think any of the 2.0s will be in the Rumble. I don't.
Really?
If anyone from NXT is going in the Rumble this year, I think it'll be Roddy, it'll be Pete, it'll be Tommaso.
Yeah, Pete.
It will be holdovers from the Black and Gold era. I don't think we will see any 2.0s in this year's Rumbles.
Very possible.
Not the Rumble's going to be fun. The women maybe, not the men.
Yeah. And like I said, it's going to be interesting to see. The Rumble is always one of my favorite shows of any year. So, I mean, I'm excited to see the Rumble regardless of who's in, who's out. And we'll have to think of something fun to do for Love Wrestling during the Rumble. I think that might be a watch-along type of show. We'll have to figure something out. But after we get the AJ Grayson stuff, we get confirmed that it's going to be the main event of next week. We then get a Pete Dunne promo where he tells Tony that he's he tells Tony he's an idiot for only breaking his hand when he had Pete Dunne pinned down with the crowbar. And we later find out in the night that we're getting a crowbar and a pole match between Pete Dunne and Tony D'Angelo.
Yay!
Crowbar on a pole.
It's been a long time since I've seen an on a pole match. But let's hope NXT does it better than WWE ever has in the past.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that I have a lot of faith in NXT to do better than the main roster. I really do. On a pole is something I don't think that was ever a good gimmick, and I don't think anybody's ever done it really well. So I have bad feelings about how this is going to go. But let's see.
Depends on how they play it out. I saw the last on a pole match I saw. I forget if it was WWE or if it was like Impact or AEW or who had it. Most likely WWE somewhere. But it was where whatever you grab off the pole, you don't win the match by grabbing it. It just means you're legally allowed to use that weapon in the fight.
Yeah, that's the WWE rules on how it works.
Now, in the past, it was you win it, or like you grab it, you win the match, and then you just beat your opponent with it after you've won. Is how it used to be.
Yeah. I mean, pole, as the wordsmith says so eloquently from Vince Russo's mouth to right into the wordsmiths, pole matches, bro. We then got the 6-man tag. We got the Imperium entrance, which looks great in this NXT 2.0 arena. I will say it every time. That big, huge, massive screen, just all white before they start bringing in the other stuff. I wish they wouldn't have the background on it. I don't like the fact that they have like a black like building or something in the background. I just want it to be a plain white background with the black words, that black letters that say Imperium, and as much light in your face as possible. We then got my only UGG segment of the night, where we had Casey Squared talking to Amari Miller, where they congratulated Amari Miller on her match or something or other. And they talked about going Texas two-stepping and then quickly backed off of it because apparently apparently we were supposed to imply that they're now dating JBBJ, apparently, because that was what was supposed to.
That's how it was taken by Amari. They said they went two-stepping with Brooks and Jensen, and Amari kind of gave him a glance, and they're like, wait, not like that.
Yeah. So then, at that point, they then say that in 2022 is going to be the year that they become the women's tag team champions. Not that they're going to become the first women's tag team champions, but at some point in the next 12 months, they're going to hold the titles. I wholeheartedly agree that at some point in the next 12 months, sadly, they're going to be holding those NXT Women's Championships. I agree. That then brings from behind them, Indy and Persia. But instead of walking up and like walking through them, which would make a lot of sense when you're irritated with somebody, they went ahead and walked all the way around all three people, as Cody definitely pointed out in the pre-show chat. And then they were there. And they go, no, we're going to be the first and the new NXT Women's Tag Team Champions. I'm like, fine, whatever, cool. Which then leads to Casey Squared and Amari Miller offering a 3-on-2 match. Or they wanted to have a 6-woman tag.
What was Persia's idea? Persia's like, let's go. Let's go. Yeah. And Indy's like, why do you keep putting us in handicap matches? What is with you in handicap matches?
And Persia's response is, well, I'm really good at handicap matches. But at least this week she says that Indy's now finally focused on the tag team. She's no longer focused on Dexter. She's focused on the tag team. So Indy goes, no, but we need a partner. And she's like, well, fine. What about her? And Persia steps aside and we get Tiffany Stratton. I didn't immediately recognize this was Tiffany Stratton, which is not good for the NXT's, retention thing, considering she was just on the show last week and I didn't recognize her. That being said, the moment she said, no, got on her phone and said, Daddy, the girls here are so ew. I'm like, oh, Tiffany Stratton, cool. It then reveals Wendy Chu, or Karen Q, however you want to put it, sleeping in the background. Because that's what her entire gimmick is that she sleeps in the background of all of these shots. And they wake her up.
Well, I think it's Tiffany, as she walks away, says, what about her? Or like, you could take her or something.
Yeah,
what about her?
And then Wendy
I hated this whole segment.
He blanked out during his own doubt.
So then they decide that they start talking to Wendy, and she's like, "What? I don't know." She says something. It's not fun. It's not great. They ask her who the hell she is, and she says, "Wendy Chu," and makes some kind of, and then goes back to sleep. And I'm just like, I don't like this. I don't like this.
I want her to spend the entire match next week just laying down, sleeping on the apron.
Yeah. I have a bad feeling that's exactly what's going to happen too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I can see that.
This segment was all over the place with so many people that I just didn't like it.
I mean, it was a way to put these 8 women on TV and remind us they still existed at least.
But
or
why
7 women, whatever we had.
Why are we being reminded that Amari Miller exists? She's an enhancement talent.
Because this is 2.0 and enhancement talents are still becoming things. Just look at, is it Malik
That's
Blade?
true. Malik Blade and Idris Enofe. Yeah, you're right.
Look, Dara's giving us the line. That's exactly what it was.
Why are you looking at me like a ham sandwich? What the heck? Yeah,
that was her line.
It's just they are future tag team champions. They don't belong in crap like this. These women are smart enough to come up with better stuff. I don't care if the Australians come up with anything in Aussie slang. It's better than the crap we got in the segment.
I don't know that they are tag team champions in the future. I think this entire tag team of Indy and Persia is leading towards Persia dropping Indy.
Oh, I wholeheartedly agree to that,
the same way that Vaughn dropped Kyle. I feel like they're going to lose an important match, and Persia's going to decide she can do it on her own.
The Dusty Classic.
She'll have the Thanos moment. Fine, I'll do it myself.
If she grabs a golden glove when she does that, I'll be so excited. That'd be great. That being said, Dar Amazing does ask who will be in the Women's Dusty Classic. They don't know, which is why it doesn't start till April. Because they're going to build tag teams between now and April to be in this thing. Because otherwise, it's Indian Persia, KC Squared, Toxic Attraction.
I mean, maybe Io and Zoe when Zoe's healthy again.
Oh God, no! It just got worse.
I didn't want to say it, but Cody said it, so.
Anyways, the Women's Dusty Classic is going to be fantastic once they put some other women. You're probably going to see some Raw and SmackDown teams, so expect to see Zelina and Carmella. Expect to see Natalya and somebody. Because
they may just go with a 4-team tournament too or something.
Yeah, it's gonna be fine. They have 3 months to figure it out. I'm sure they can do something.
What if they put Cora with Raquel though?
Cora and Raquel. I mean, you got KLR still out there. You got Dakota still out there. It's why things like this make me think we're not seeing as many call-ups as people think we're going to see before Mania. People are so used to the NXT call-ups being a staple. I really think 2.0 is a change in the way we need to look at this. I don't think the call-ups are coming that fast.
No, I agree. I don't think we're going to be getting a ton of call-ups, but I think that there's going to be a few here and there, especially just because of all the talent lost in the women's division and them needing to, especially on SmackDown, needing a couple bodies.
Lost, or they let it go because they couldn't use, they had no use for more than 10 women on each show. Plus the fact that we're getting Bailey back, we're getting Lacey back, we're getting Alexa back. You know, they're not going to have a lot of room for women that they actually have a use for.
And I agree, but I think a lot of that talent's going to Raw and going to be putting, Dara Amazing coming in with the spoilers here. Astrid and the mystery partner will be in the Dusty. I mean, she is in the area. I mean,
Astrid and Ella J.
There we go. Astrid and Ella J. You heard it here first.
Yep.
I would die in a ring. I can't do it.
After this, we had MSK and Riddle come out. We had that great match. We then got the Mandy Chopper entrance, which again, chef's kiss. There was no need for it. There's no reason for it. Her character's not Charlotte Flair, who needs a big entrance to a WrestleMania match. Yep. This is a match at New Year's Evil, but why not? She's great and whatever, and Angel's Wings and all that crap. That's fine. We then get an Elektra Lopez interview, which is much, much more important, where Elektra's asked about what's going on between her and Zion Quinn. And she gives a very interesting answer here, where she talks about how Legado del Fantasma is her family. And Santos saw something in her where she was going to be a big deal. And I'm not reading Dara's comment. We're going to ignore that for now. I'm going to focus on what I'm saying. So we go ahead and she talks about how Santos saw everything in her and, you know, she's important and she's going to choose Legado all the time. That's her family and that's who she's siding with. But then she also says, but I'm attracted to winners and I'm attracted to success. And I see success in Zion Quinn. So next week, we're going to have Zion Quinn versus Santos Escobar, and I'm the prize. And I'm like, you know, in an equal world, I don't want women to be prizes that are won and lost. That being said, the fact that she's like, it's essentially her saying, I'm going to make my own decision, and we're going to find out next week when she helps one of the two of them win.
Mm-hmm.
But I like the idea that, like, there's these two groups of men that want her on their side, and they're competing over her affection, and she has a choice in the matter. Because in the old days, she'd just be put in a shark cage over the ring.
Like on a pole match?
No, she's not going to be on a pole. We're not doing women on a pole. Zach, no. Josh will not be happy if I start trying to put women on poles.
Elektra in a shark cage.
But yeah, Elektra in a shark cage. But like, that's exactly it. Like, at least this way, she's like, no, I've made the decision that I'm going to be the prize. She made the decision clearly in this in the interview. It sounds like she's the one making the choice. She's like, no, whoever wins gets me as, you know, part of their team. Yes, Lopez Managerial Services for one. No, we're not talking about the Terry Rose. We're not talking about the Terry Rose Invitational Ladder Tournament or whatever it was called.
Terry Runnels, yes.
Because that was a debacle in the 90s too.
Ed clearly still has Mandy Rose on his mind that he's calling her Terry Rose.
No, yeah. Somebody else talk.
I get where Ed was going, though. In a past world, in a past time, we would have seen, you know, her contract like in a ladder match. We'd see her contract on a pole. We'd see her hung on a pole. We'd see her in a shark cage. We'd see something along those lines to have her. And it would be one of the guys saying, I'm going to take her from you. We're going to put her up. And if you lose, I win her. So to see it in a match where she's like, no, you both have equal opportunity for me to leave with you. You prove to me you're a winner. I'll go with you.
That's where I was trying to go with this whole train wreck of a conversation.
No, I knew where you were headed all along. You were just talking yourself in circles and not getting anywhere with it.
We understood you, Ben.
Dar, to go back to this now that I'm not trying to have a thought and getting lost in my own thought. Yes, we can be the amazing fries. We can be. That'll be great. But no, so it'll be fun to see that. Plus, I want to see that match again anyways. We saw it once. It was really cool. I think that they have more to offer, so it'll be exciting to see what happens in the future with that. We then went into the women's triple threat, which was Cora Jade versus Raquel Gonzalez versus Mandy Rose. And now we get back to, as we stated earlier, it was the Audi versus the bicyclists. It's a little bit of a train wreck, this match. So first things first, all of these women gave it their all. They had a pretty good match out of this too. It got plenty of time. I want to say it got at least 10 to 20 minutes.
It was an automobile versus a bicycle versus a pedestrian. You put yourself in the position to choose which of the three ladies fills each role.
My thoughts on this was Cody brought up a really good point in our chat. Mandy was very focused on making sure she remembered all the spots to this match. And there's one spot where you know that she was focused on what comes next when she was pretending to run away and she did the most lackadaisical jog ever. Yeah. Baywatch run in the sand.
That's how it was playing in your mind, though. That's a different story.
Yeah, but honestly, I I hadn't thought about it, so Cody just did his run, which reminded me of Baywatch, because that's how the women ran in Baywatch, with the over-exaggerated arms and everything else.
Oh gosh.
But yeah, and then we had Cora Jade, and I love Cora Jade, and she's 20 years old, and she has. No, we weren't watching Baywatch. We could have a Baywatch, podcast at some point, but that's another time for another time.
It was Baywatch 2.0. The Rock and Zac Efron.
Yeah. Oh God. Cora Jade is an ultra talented young lady. That being said, she has a ton of room to improve, and most importantly, with making her stuff look like it connects. Because a lot of her big moves, she's scared to lay it in because I think she's scared to accidentally hit somebody. Because the spot that I remember the most for this was she was doing the running up knee lift to Raquel. And Raquel, no ifs, ands, or buts about it. Raquel's a big girl, and it takes a lot to get all the way up there. But she didn't get nearly high enough, and she barely hit her chest. And Raquel had to sell as if she'd been hit in the chin. And you just gotta lay that one in, because if you don't, it looks really bad. That being said, they tried really hard. It wasn't as bad as it could have been. And at the end of the day, these three just aren't the type of wrestlers that need to be in a three-way with each other, because Mandy's not the most skilled in-ring general. Cora Jade's still very young and green. And Raquel Gonzalez is not an in-ring general, even though that's the role she has to play in the match. And she still needs a little bit of work before she can really be considered a veteran, in my mind.
This was the kind of match that very much makes you realize and remember that NXT is still developmental, because all three of these women are still clearly in need of development. Cora has a long ways to go in her in-ring. She doesn't even have a confirmed finishing move at this point. She just has the roll-up, and that's it. And that makes it like, how do you take somebody seriously as a title contender when every win they have is by roll-up and they don't actually have a finisher? Raquel is very good at what she does, but Raquel definitely excels with other talented women who know what they're doing in the ring and can still help her along and help her grow. A match like this, putting her in a position where she has to try and help two women still below her in overall capabilities in the ring, really just exposes her and where she's still at from a talent level. Mandy has her character work down. Mandy has her personality down. She has a lot of things going for her. She has a look. She has the strength. She has the power. She has the move set, but she's still figuring out how the mechanics and the stories and the mentality of a match need to go. It wasn't terrible. It was definitely not anywhere near the quality of any of the other three matches we saw tonight, or a lot of the matches we've been seeing on NXT 2.0 over the last 4 months. But as a whole, it's a position to put these three ladies in where you can only learn and grow from it, but it definitely exposes where they're at in their development and why they're still in NXT and not anywhere higher yet.
And that, like I said, that being said, we're not trying to sit here and tear them down, because they're fantastic talents who, Cora's, like I said, Cora's 20 years old. She's got literally more years ahead of her in this business than she's had in life. Like, she'll get there, and she's going to get there, and she's going to be fantastic. Raquel Gonzalez does like Cody says, does a lot of things really good. Mandy Rose is light years ahead of where she was on the main roster way back in the day when she was, with Otis or with Sonya and Paige and things like that. She is such a more talented in-ring wrestler, and she's got this gimmick and this character down to a T, and they're putting her in positions to succeed. She just needs somebody else to help her carry the match. And that's why I think this match would have been better if Raquel Gonzalez was swapped out for either Kaylee Ray or Io Shirai.
Or
Just-
both, as we had the opportunity to last week, which I actually thought we might have been heading to when they had that tag match.
Yeah, and I would have been fine with that, but you only get Mandy's the only one who improves if you make it both of them. Whereas if you leave Cora in there, you give her the experience and the chance to grow, and you still have a strong enough in-ring general in one of the two of the other ladies to be able to run the rest of the match and bring them both up. Whereas Raquel's still still just doesn't have that in-ring stuff yet, that in-ring general timing that you need to carry that match.
I think as the champion, though, I think Mandy benefits a lot from having the EO and KLR. Overall, as a champion in understanding ring psychology. That's the word I was thinking earlier when I was saying mindset, but ring psychology, that she needs that. That's the one thing she's really missing in her arsenal right now, is being able to call a match and being able to complete a match. And even as we saw in the finish of this, where the roll-up wasn't clean, that's something that one of either Cora or Mandy should be able to understand, or even the referee for that matter, but the ref was completely out of position to see. But one of them should realize that Cora is literally on the back of her head and her arms are still flailing in the air.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it wasn't exactly the smooth sailing match that it could have been.
Yeah,
Astrid,
Cora overrolled, Mandy overpulled, one of the two, but one of them should be able to realize that you're not in a position with the shoulders down.
Or both. And in my opinion, I think it was both. I think Cora tried to make sure she was in position and overrolled. Mandy wanted to make sure that Cora didn't undersell, so she made sure she overpushed. At the end of the day, both of them got themselves so far out of position that I believe one of you guys said in the thing, Cora's hair got pinned.
Yeah, that's what I noticed from my angle. I was like, it was Cora's hair, to be honest. There's something else going on here. But there was like spots like where when Raquel just threw Cora to the floor and just Mandy was in shock. Like moments like that, I was like, and then when she did the move to Raquel, and then Raquel, she kicked out too, and she puts this long shock, like as she did the best move in the world. It's like I can't believe I didn't get her. That move wasn't the best thing to get a 3 count. I'm sorry. So just like, why is she? Her expression was too long, and she kept looking at the referee like, no, like I didn't get her. It was a 2, and I'm like, okay, we got it. It was a 2. Move on. You're like prolonging this for some reason. I don't know. And there was the other spot. What I believe, I don't know if it was the other way around, that it was Mandy and Raquel's shoulders, and then Cora jumped on top of them. That's the other part that I was like, I don't know how I feel about seeing these type of moves. But yeah, just the pin, I didn't like it. Like I said in the chat, it was Cora's hair that got pinned. It wasn't Cora, to be honest. So just like, it was, I know these three, it wasn't going to be like, oh my God, I wasn't looking forward to it. Like I was looking forward to the other matches, but I feel like they could have done better. And that's the part that I'm like, but yeah, it could have been something else, but it just like Cody was saying, it just reminds us that this is NXT and this is developmental still at this point now for them, so it'll give them more room to improve.
I think there was the one spot you were talking about there where it was Raquel had hit the Chiquita bomb, or whatever it is that she calls it, and then Cora jumped off the top to break that pin, and then never actually went for the pin. She just like so shocked that she actually hit the move and then didn't go for the pin immediately.
Yeah. There was that, but there was one on the outside too. I don't remember what was happening on the outside between Raquel and Mandy, and Cora just jumped on top of Raquel on top, and I'm like, I didn't like the way they formatted that. I didn't like it, but that one that you mentioned was another one that I was just like, it felt like uncomfortable to watch it.
In a triple threat match, Raquel chasing Mandy up the entrance into the backstage didn't make sense either. You've got Cora literally laying down and out, and Raquel stepped over Cora to go chasing after Mandy. Why not throw Cora in and finish the match while the champion's not even in the match?
Yep.
That didn't make sense. And then the finish too, when Cora pushed Raquel off the top and Mandy was in the back laying down there right before the roll up. And Cora was so shocked and surprised in herself at throwing Raquel over that she didn't actually turn around to do anything to Mandy. That's when the thought crossed my mind, as I said in the chat there too, that I started thinking right at that moment, okay, Cora's going to get rolled up as soon as she goes to Mandy over here now. And it's exactly what happened.
And I did like that they at least continued the story of the roll-up thing. Cora went for the roll up, and Mandy caught her out on it, and managed to get a roll up attempt of her own. They tried. Give them an A for effort. They tried. NXT continues to make the women an important part of the show. They gave them a relatively primetime spot. They gave them plenty of time. It wasn't an afterthought that where they were like, well, we know it's not going to be a great match, so 5 minutes, girls, go out there and get it done. Like, they gave them, 10, 15, 20 minutes with entrances and everything else. Like, they gave them the time. They gave them a spotlight. There was nothing super, other than a commercial break in the middle of the match, there was nothing to take your attention away from it, which is always nice. Like, they tried. And NXT's done a really good job of making the women's segments feel important. We then had, speaking of terrible things that I wish would go away, we had a BOA promo.
Oh, that's not where I thought we were going next to, but okay, that too.
I had a feeling it was
No, I don't know where else we thought we were going, but we had the BOA promo where BOA wants to take on Solo Sikoa by himself, even though he knows that the power that's inside of him is so strong that he can absolutely defeat Solo Sikoa with it. But for some reason, he wants to depower himself and take on Solo Sikoa by himself. So he keeps dipping his head in the holy water until the demon BOA pops up next to him, to which Cody says there's now 2 BOAs, and I go, I don't know. I don't care. So BOA versus Solo Sikoa next week. If this match takes more than 3 minutes, I'm going to be irritated. So good luck. Enjoy seeing me irritated next week on NXT, because this is going to definitely go more than 3 minutes, and I'm going to be irritated. We then had the MSK Riddle goodbye, which is interrupted by the Creeds, where the Creeds are basically O'Doyle rules from the Billy Madison movie. They feel like the big bullies, where they tell MSK that, you guys have been gone for 2 months, and if you think you deserve a shot in Imperium, I mean, they just won a tag team match against Imperium, so yeah, they should get a tag team title shot.
Riddle got the pin, so.
Yeah, but they were on the team that won the match, so in WWE logic, that means that you get a title shot. That being said, they say the Creeds say the only way that MSK is going to get another shot at Imperium is by winning the Dusty Classic. I have a feeling they're going to get their own shot at them regardless. I don't think they're winning the Dusty Classic, but it's nice to see the Dusty Classic filling up.
Yeah.
In our chat, Cody had put in a bunch of teams that he thinks could be in there, which include JBBJ. It includes Legado del Fantasma. It includes MSK. It includes
Jacket Time.
Oh, fucking hell. Jacket Time.
Grizzled young veterans.
Yeah, I was going to say your favorites.
Yeah, Grizzled Young Jokers. Yeah. Andre Chase and his student, which we got more of a hint at tonight. And then we got the backstage. Yeah, the backstage statement that I didn't write down, where Gacy says that him and Harlan want to become a tag team for the Dusty Classic, but they want to earn their shot at the Dusty Classic. They don't want to just expect to be entered in like those other tag teams that are established. So because they're a thrown together tag team, they need to earn their way in. And I'm like, great, cool. I mean, I'm all for you two wrestling. That's fine. So expect them to beat Idris Inoue and Malik Blade next week. Because honestly, who else is it gonna be? It's gonna be I'm trying to think. I was like, who's the smallest itty bittiest team that they could beat? I'm like, yeah, Idris Inoue and Malik Blade.
They'll beat the Grizzled Young Veterans to get in.
The Grizzled Young Jokers, yes, the Grizzled Young Jokers. They don't even get to be veterans anymore. They're now Jokers. We have, oh man, I almost forgot about Jacket Time. Trust me, I forget every week until somebody brings them up on Tuesdays. And
it's Jacket Time.
And yeah, dang, and yeah.
Before we move forward, though, I
absolutely
did pull up the match times to clarify, since you've been guesstimating all night.
I have.
Carmelo Hayes versus Roderick Strong got 15-30.
Okay.
The 6-man tag got 13-52. The women's triple threat got 12-32. And the main event got 15-28.
Not bad.
Wow, pretty cool.
Everything's roughly in the same ballpark. That's about
Mhm.
it's about an hour's worth of wrestling on a 2-hour wrestling show. So that's pretty good for considering commercial breaks and everything. That's not half bad, actually.
Yeah,
It's a
about
lot of
an hour's
wrestling.
worth of wrestling. We had, what do they usually have? 15 to 20 minutes on a 2-hour program worth of commercials.
Mhm.
And so about 30 to 40 minutes of, entrances, interviews, promo material, backstage segments.
Yeah. So I mean that's pretty good considering that, I added up the time for Wrestle Kingdom and because somebody said, "Oh my God, Wrestle Kingdom Night 1 is 5 hours," and I went, "Yeah, but don't worry, it's only like 3 hours. It's only like 2.5 to 3 hours of actual in-ring time." Which is saying something considering it's their biggest show of the year and there's that much downtime. But that's because Wrestle Kingdom has that they have something on the pre-show and then they have like 45 minutes of you just get intermission stuff for the next 40 minutes and they just leave it in the show. But yes, everybody remember it is Wrestle Kingdom time, so go watch that. I didn't hear a raving review of Night 1 from Matt today. I was a bit surprised by that. When I was looking over the results, I'm like, "Oh, this seems like a good show." And Matt goes, "Nope, it was horrible." And I'm like, "Oh."
I have not watched myself yet, and I have not talked to Mel yet on her thoughts on it. Probably tonight or tomorrow, I'll try and get through Night 1 and maybe Night 2 also, and then check in with her on what her thoughts of it were. But yeah, Matt has given us a low expectation on it.
Yeah, and I just want to bring it up because I'm bringing it up on my screen. I know that there is a showcase match for Stardom on the actual card, and I want to get the names right. So we have Mayu Iwatani in Starlight Kid versus Tam Nakano and Shea Kamitana. So Cody, I know you've been watching some Stardom. Does that sound like it's going to be a good match?
I mean,
I know one of the four in that match.
I have not been up to date on my Stardom through the holiday season.
Okay.
The only I didn't completely catch what you said for the second. I don't know Mayo that well. Starlight Kid is really fun. I really enjoy watching Starlight Kid. Who else did you say was there?
Tam Nakano and something else. I forget. Hold on. It'll take me 2 seconds because it's the recent search now. Buffering. Tam Nakano and Saya Kamitana.
Yeah, I'm terrible with the names in it too. Starlight Kid stands out because it's an easy enough name to remember. So I do enjoy Starlight Kid and what she's been doing. The rest of it, I'm very behind. I've been paying for my Stardom subscription, but haven't actually been keeping up on it over the holidays.
I know my Iwatani. I watched. I try to catch when I can Church of Joshi on Sunday mornings with Kayla and Alex, and I like to get some of my learning of my Joshi wrestling that way, because Joshi wrestling is very underrated in the Western part of the world, and it is absolutely fantastic. So if you have the opportunity to watch Joshi wrestling, please watch. And again, they will have on the main card of Wrestle Kingdom. It'll be the first women's match ever on the main card,
featured on a main card. Yep.
Yeah, because I know they had a Stardom match last year, but it was on the pre-show, so it doesn't count. Because if anybody's telling us anything, the pre-show doesn't count when you're counting scores.
Well, it wasn't even like Wrestle Kingdom wasn't even streamed on, or like the Stardom match last year wasn't even streamed for it. I don't think.
Oh, wasn't even? It was just a dark match.
Yeah, they've done it for a while where they've had them as dark matches. It was the show just before G1, the main show that they ran then. That was the first time ever that they've actually streamed and commentated a Stardom match on NJPW.
So I just know that it's a big deal coming in that the women are going to be on a Wrestle Kingdom card on the main card. So I wanted to bring that up because that's important. We also have the winner of the Shingo Takagi versus Kazuchika Okada match taking on Will Ospreay, which if you're looking for fantastic wrestling, no matter which of the two is facing Will Ospreay, that's going to be a hell of a match. I guarantee it's going to get 5 stars. I know who the winner is because I've looked at the results. I'm not saying it because of Cody, so please don't say it in the chat.
Facebook spoiled it on me already anyhow.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I've been really good by trying to talk about like everything except like
I don't want to
like
spoil
I
it
saw
for
that
anyone
one
who may still wanna
specifically.
watch, but
I was saying
don't
I
wanna spoil it.
specifically went out and sought out the answer to who won that Shingo match because Shingo versus Kazuchika Okada is going to be fantastic. I will watch the replay of that match somehow, no matter how I get to. I will watch that match. And the winner of that match versus Will Ospreay is going to be fantastic.
So I am just looking back. I have seen Saya Kamatami before because she was one of the ones that participated in that pre-show match at Grand Slam in September.
And Dara says, speaking of New Japan, yes, they are back to Access TV this year, and so that will be exciting. We'll be able to add New Japan back into the ratings, where I guarantee they'll probably beat Impact, which is unfortunate because Impact is great. And remember that you can catch these other 2 people with me tonight, along with
Put
Mel.
your fingers right. Wait, that way.
There.
Myself
there.
and Astrid.
Yeah, those two. Those 2 are going to definitely be covering with Mel. They're going to be covering Impact's Hard to Kill, and I believe it is this Saturday night. So after Impact's Hard to Kill, make sure you jump over to all of your favorite Love Wrestling channels so you can see these 2 fine people and Mel as they go ahead and recap Hard to Kill, which includes...
As far as I understand it, there may also be some guest run-ins or guest contributors that may be joining the 3 of us, because it sounds like there's a lot of interest in this 6-woman Ultimate X match and the card that is being put together for Hard to Kill. So
I was going to say, and including my main event of the night, which is going to be Mickie James versus Deonna Purrazzo in a Texas death match. So, yes, this Saturday will be full of wrestling. Not to mention, on the 8th, we have night 3 of Wrestle Kingdom, which is New Japan versus Noah, which is a whole bunch of tag team matches.
And
tag
Battle
team
of
and
the Belts for the AEW people. Like, this Saturday is going to be Wrestle Saturday.
Yeah, it is. So make sure you follow all of your favorite Love Wrestling channels as we go over all of the good stuff this week. That being said, we then get to Braun Breaker versus Daddy Tommaso Ciampa, which is won by Braun Breaker after he puts him into the Steiner recliner. I don't know what they're calling it. I had to have my volume down because I'm 4 seconds ahead of Astrid and about 2.5 ahead of Cody. If I have it on loud enough, the Braun Kleiner. If I have it on at any volume that I can actually hear, they can hear it on my microphone. So it makes no sense to have the volume on when I do the pre-show with these guys. That being said, this was just fantastic. Cody has his thoughts, and I'm going to let him speak on these in just a moment, but I'm going to first let Astrid talk about her thoughts on this match.
I mean, it's exactly what I expected it to be and more, and having no commercials really helped it out because I feel like we got that action. Match felt longer than what it was, to be honest, and I enjoyed it. And like we talked about in the chat, like about the gears, because Breaker had his gear was completely black instead of like the rainbow splatter, but then Ciampa had the rainbow splatter on his gear tonight. But overall, I really loved the match. I was already expecting Breaker to win, so when it happened, I was not surprised. But I was happy either way. I was one of those people. I'm like, I didn't care who won because I knew that either way we would win as fans. But I loved it. But it just makes you think what's next for Ciampa now.
And Cody, you had some interesting thoughts that we were talking about in the chat, so I'm going to go ahead and have you explain those as you go over this wonderful match.
I have a lot of thoughts. I agree with Astrid, though, and all of us, I think, were in agreement on this, that with the no commercials for it, even though it was only about a 15 minutes match after the entrance, or like I said, 15:28 was the final recorded time, at least on the internets as of right now. It felt like a longer match. It felt like more than 15 minutes. It felt very high intensity and high action. It didn't really feel like you had those down spots, those rest holds, anything like that that we get in a typical match. I think we all knew Braun was winning when we got this rematch this quickly coming out. Like you had the War Games match, he got the pin, you get the rematch. There's only one way this realistically ends. I would have loved to see Ciampa win this. I felt like Ciampa has a lot more story to tell and could tell it a lot better as the champion, holding that belt and holding off the 2.0 wave. But I get it. If they're going all in on the 2.0, it doesn't make as much sense to have him holding it off. I just felt like that was a really strong story. You could have had him hold it until like the takeover on Mania week. Battle off Braun, maybe hold off like a Von Wagner, a Tony D'Angelo, Carmelo Hayes, a Joe Gacy, whoever else they want to throw at him. Have all of these new 2.0 guys come and, take their shot. And Tommaso just swats them all down one at a time, and then really put over a Harland in that spot on Mania weekend and make Harland as the champion. I don't know that Harlan will be ready by March. I know we're not getting any talking out of him right now. He's got a long ways that he's got to show us that he's ready to be a champion, but that 3 months is a long time on NXT for them to be able to build that too. As far as going forward with Braun Breaker as a champion, I feel like him and Tommaso are kind of the one place where we haven't really had that ships passing in the night dynamic that we've had a lot of on 2.0. So I don't know where Braun goes next now as the champion, that I feel like we have to be going to a rematch clause for Tommaso. He beat him once. They had the tag match. Now Braun has beat him once. We're 1-1 in singles action. I think we have to go to that rematch for him to really close the door on Ciampa. And hopefully as we build to that inevitable rematch, we can build in there some, passing bystanders that are starting to nip at the heels of both Tommaso and Braun and set up our future feuds.
Yeah, I mean, it was a fun match. There's so many routes you can go. There was no way to lose in this. If Ciampa wins, you get great stories with people like Cody says, with all the 2.0 people coming up and, him being the final bastion of black and gold and defending it against all comers and knocking them all down. And then, if Braun wins, you get to anoint 2.0 and get this thing going in the new year with the 2.0 at the top, and, have mostly 2.0 champions and things like that. And you rebuild the brand in a new image. Speaking of new images, we are going to reshuffle the deck a little bit here. So give me a moment. Cody, just want to let you know that support for NXT is brought to you by Manscaped, who is the best in men's below-the-waist grooming champions of the world. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped just launched their 4th-generation trimmer, the Lawnmower 4.0. You heard that right, the 4.0. Join over 4 million men worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer that we have for you. 20% off and free worldwide shipping, United States, Canada, wherever it might be, with the code LOVEWRESTLING at manscaped.com. That's the promo code LOVEWRESTLING at Manscaped, MANSCAPED.com. Cody, you just got your package in the mail a few days ago. So go ahead and tell us about what you thought when yours arrived.
It's wonderful. It's what I've been looking for. It's what I needed. Got my crop preserver, my crop reviver. I got the wonderful 4.0 lawnmower with the light on it to be able to see what I'm doing, do it what I got to do in the dry and in the wet, because it is at least partially water resistant. That it will be work for what you need it, whether you're doing it in the shower or anywhere else. It's been a great addition to my daily grooming routine.
And it also comes, just so those that don't know, it does come with an ear and nose hair trimmer. So it's not all about the below the waist. Like, they're the kings in below the waist. But don't forget, they have products for everything. They have products for all kinds of different things. So make sure that you go ahead and check out all the wonderful options at manscaped.com. It's manscaped.com. Use the promo code LOVEWRESTLING and get 20% off your order and free worldwide shipping. Yeah. And make sure that you have the right. Sorry, I was going into the call to act, the different parts of the read, but I'm like, I just did that. So we're going to go ahead and bring our friend Astrid back in. Hello, Astrid. Welcome back.
Hello.
Wanted to go ahead and get that out of the way so we can make sure that we have covered all of our sponsor things, because we need to make sure that we cover our sponsors, because they make it capable for us to be able to do all these fine things for you. We have Bobby coming in saying that he wants to see Braun Breaker versus Carmelo Hayes. This is going to be a main title feud at some point down the line. Probably SummerSlammy time, I think, maybe.
Yeah, that's something you could build to over 6 to 8 months at this point. I don't think we have to get there anytime soon. I think both of them could have, lengthy runs with their titles and their championships this type.
He also says that Mayu Iwatani has some matches in Ring of Honor, and she does. She's fantastic. She's a worldwide name. I've seen her in multiple places, and she's absolutely fantastic. I just wanted to make sure that I pointed out how Joshi Wrestling is important, and especially having this big of a stage where they're on the Wrestle Kingdom stage, on the main card, on night 2 of Wrestle Kingdom. It's definitely an important thing to have.
Speaking of Ring of Honor,
yes.
We have the ROH, the new ROH World Champion is going to be featured on the Hard to Kill pay-per-view this Saturday, defending his ROH Championship against Chris Sabin on Impact Wrestling. And the women's ROH champion, Roxy, is then going to be defending her championship next week on Impact, I believe, against the winner of the Deanna Mickey match.
Yeah. So there's
no, maybe it's not the winner of the match. Maybe it is just straight up Deanna versus Roxy is how they're doing it.
I think it's just Deanna versus Roxy.
Yeah.
And it's, I assume it's going to be title for title.
It's a winner take all.
If Deanna takes the title, I mean, Deanna's already the Reina de Reinas champion. She could be Impact champion again, and then potentially ROH champion. She could hold 3 belts. She could be 3-belt Deanna. Take over for Kenny.
I mean, somebody has to take over for Kenny. I did forget something in our run through of NXT that the team was very, very kind to remind me of in the private chat. I forgot about my favorite person in NXT. Did somebody say Andre Chase? Andre Chase did make an appearance tonight where he was giving a full scholarship to one of his students, the one who almost got thrown off the building.
I also missed his name. It was a teachable moment for coming out and rescuing Andre Chase and, the bond between faculty and student.
Yes. And just keep buying me another couple seconds.
Andre announces that as a reward for his dedication to the program, he's offering a full scholarship, the first ever full scholarship to an Andre Chase U a Chase U attendee or student. And the student stands up and starts coming down the stairs to accept his scholarship when he is rudely interrupted by one Von Wagner, Albert, Prince, Tensai, whatever we want to call Tensai's son. To which Vaughn comes in and says some words that I didn't pay attention to, attacks Andre Chase.
I don't think he paid attention to the words he said either.
And then goes out of the ring and attacks the student in the stands, and then attacks 2 to 3 random bystanders in the front row as well before he is hauled off by security.
Do we think that they were honestly innocent bystanders, or do we think this was...
They were probably plants, but at the end of the day, they're still innocent bystanders that they had nothing to do with the story otherwise.
And thank you, Astrid. It is Bodie Hayward. I was trying to find she thankfully posted it in the chat for the 3 of us, as I couldn't find it in our private chat that she'd messaged it to me a couple days ago. But yes, it is Bodie Hayward is his name. I did love that they did this just for the topical reference. This entire segment was just a chance for them to take a shot at Antonio Brown, because one of the commentators goes ahead and says,
it was Wade.
It was Wade. He's gone crazy like Antonio Brown.
He's gone more off the rails than Antonio Brown, I think is how he worded it.
Yeah, and I am spelling it right now for you in the chat. Are amazing. So you can go ahead and talk about anything else that you have to talk about when it comes to this show.
I really don't know where this is going with Von Wagner right now. He kind of feels all over the map, that he's just randomly interrupting different segments just to beat people up and attack them. That I feel like he's going to run into somebody at some point here, maybe a Solo Sikoa, who's not going to back down to this kind of intimidation tactic that he's running around doing. Maybe an Odyssey Jones too, but really just Von Wagner feels like he's a guy without a story, a guy without a path. He has no direction to his character other than just like he's lost his mind since losing Kyle or attacking Kyle or whatever we want to call it.
since Kyle decided that he wanted to become part of the
Redacted era?
The disputed era.
No, redacted era.
Is that what they're calling it? I honestly don't know.
I don't know if that's officially what they're calling it, but it's what I've seen online that it's being referred to as. So
yeah. And then, as Choco Gaming
yes.
says, as he was being let out of the arena, they did have him pass Diamond Mine, where Roddy started to sit up and Ivy Nile.
Yeah.
Which I love. Like I'm all for like when we talk about intergender wrestling and we talk about the potential for having a legitimate woman in an intergender match and having somebody believable to take on a man and win. Ivy Nile is that person in NXT for me. She's the woman who I look at and go, yeah, she could wrestle some of these guys and win. Now, her versus Vaughn is a little bit more unbelievable than like her versus Andre Chase or her versus Trick Williams. But I'm all for seeing what happens.
So I know we went on off the rails with this a little bit a couple weeks ago when we were on here, Ed, and I don't want to divulge too far into that. I have a different plan for a different time that I'm going to dive a little bit further into the intergender wrestling stuff. More on that soon. But we believe a guy like Rey Mysterio can beat the Big Show or can beat Kevin Nash or can take down these giants. Everybody loves the David versus Goliath stories. And yet we're sitting here questioning whether we could believe Ivy Nile beating a Von Wagner. What is the difference? What is the difference between Ivy Nile and Rey Mysterio that everybody's so against an Ivy Nile being in that position, but loves the underdog Ricochets and Rey Mysterios and tiny guys like that being able to do it?
And my defense of my point with it is that my defense is that I'm not necessarily against it. I don't say that it's not believable that she could win. I just think that to tell the best intergender stories, the more composite the wrestlers, the more alike the wrestlers are, I think the better the intergender story is, because you can get rid of your disbelief that much faster with Ivy Nile versus, say, Andre Chase, Ivy Nile versus Carmelo Hayes, Ivy Nile versus Trick Williams, where I think that it's more, you can suspend your disbelief quicker for a competent match between people like that than having Ivy Nile go up against somebody as big and bad as Von Wagner. Can she do it? Absolutely. I'm not saying that match can't happen and that it's not believable. I'm just saying it takes more effort for me to suspend my disbelief to have Ivy Nile be competitive against people like that and people like Odyssey Jones. And again, it's solely the suspension of disbelief. The matches can happen and they can be told great. But the closer, I think, in style and stature as the competitors are, I think the better match you're going to get out of it.
Oh, yeah.
For a sense of belief.
Better match for sure. That, you know, when they're equal size, equal speed, agility, whatever you want to call it, it makes it a better match as a whole. But I'm just thinking back to, I mean, most recently that I can think of, we had
Ricochet versus Brock.
I'm thinking Kalisto versus Braun.
Yeah.
When that feud, when Braun was on his rampage and Kalisto ended up like beating him randomly out of nowhere, that something like that, I don't think it's a stretch to say you could have a similar story be told of a tiny woman like an Ivy Nile beating a Von Wagner in a similar vein to how you have a Kalisto beat a Braun Strowman or a Rey Mysterio beat a Big Show or Ricochet. I mean, Ricochet didn't beat Brock, but you have Ricochet versus Brock. You have Finn versus Brock. You've had Rey Mysterio versus Brock. You've had a lot of these tiny guys going up against a Brock Lesnar. There's no difference to me between a tiny guy or a strong, tiny woman like an Ivy Nile being in those positions to have those matches. Now, if we were putting Ivy Nile against Brock Lesnar, she'd be thrown around just like Rey Mysterio was.
Like I said, I mean, my thing falls more in. I look at it as terms of I want to suspend my disbelief with intergender wrestling. The best intergender wrestling is when you can suspend your disbelief, and I think that's where it thrives. And that's why I say Von Wagner might not be the best person, because I'd want to see these other matches where I could easily suspend my disbelief. And it wouldn't matter if it's man versus woman. It would just be two people in the ring fighting it
Like
out.
Beth Phoenix and Santino?
I was able to suspend my disbelief a whole lot easier for that than I would be for Ivy Nile versus Brock Lesnar. Yeah. I mean, it's silly and it's dumb, but those
Astrid,
were fun matches who had a great time.
I missed the show a few weeks back, Astrid, when you got into this a little bit with Ed and talking about the intergender. I know what happened. I want to hear your thoughts as we finish and close up the show pretty soon here.
I mean, I don't mind it, to be honest. I feel like as long as the two people are in agreement, like, we'll do this, we'll go for it, and they have chemistry, go for it. Why not? And I'm like, if it leads to more women having more opportunities to showcase that they can go against the guys and they can be as strong as the guys, show it up. I really don't mind. So I know I understand Ed's point of view, but I really don't mind. I'm like, if I get to see Von Wagner and Ivy could just butt for a little bit, sure, do that. I don't mind it. I want to see her power come out on top of him, so who cares?
Yeah, I mean, Impact is doing it a lot right now, too, with Chelsea Green had a feud with Rohit Raju. Chelsea Green just took a chair shot from her husband on last week's Impact, or the last Impact before the holiday break, I guess it was. Now that they've been through their best of. You've had Jordan Grace winning the social media championship in the match with multiple men as one of the only women. You've had Alicia Edwards has been interacting a lot with W. Morrissey and Moose in her stuff lately. Even Decay, they had Decay versus the Influence and Inspiration a couple weeks back. So they don't seem to be having a problem with the believability of the men versus women and the intergender stuff. That I feel like if done appropriately, you can definitely, I think women's wrestling as a whole can only grow from being in a position to wrestle with the men and wrestle at the speed of the men and learn in matches and real action from male wrestlers who work at a completely different style and speed than women have for so long.
And I was going to say, I remember I was helping out with producing the Goose Call a few weeks ago, and Gigi Ray was the guest. And she was specifically asked about this topic. And she says that she loves working with men because the men have the physicality to be able to set for moves that some of her female opponents can't do, because they don't have the same strength in the same areas, whether it be their core, their legs, their back, things like that, to set up and be able to do the moves that Gigi Ray feels more confident in doing. So when she wrestles, female to female, she has to take her moveset and dilute it some. And I think that, having men versus women in intergender wrestling can improve women's wrestling, because it gives them an ability to go for more interesting and more opened movesets that can show off their skills that much more.
Yeah.
But like I said, I don't want to, I want to make sure it's like coming out. It's more about, in my mind, it's more about the suspension of disbelief, because in wrestling, the best thing that you can do is suspend your disbelief.
I mean, at the end of the day, you could also just have, again, like we talked about with what I think is coming with Grayson Waller, you can have strong showings without needing to win. Rey Mysterio and Finn Balor had very strong showings against Brock Lesnar before he shut them down and put them away. That they had their bursts, they had Brock reeling, and then Brock just stood strong and put them down. And I think the very same thing could happen with most women going against men that are out of their league too. That, you come in, you work your speed, you work a fast, quick, athletic game, and then eventually you just get caught with the power game and put down.
Yeah. I wholeheartedly agree. I definitely don't disagree. It's the wonderful thing about wrestling, is that you can have some of these multiple opinions and everybody have a facet of it that's correct and have their own opinions, and not everything, has to be the same. We can all look at it differently and all come to the conclusion that wrestling is just fantastic in all facets, and you just enjoy what you enjoy. And if it's intergender wrestling, great. If it's WWE, great. If it's AEW, great. If it's Impact, great. If it's New Japan, great. If it's Stardom, great. Like, just enjoy wrestling in whatever form or fashion you can find it. Support your local indies.
I've been saying it since I joined Love Wrestling almost 6 months ago now, I think it was, that there's so much out there in terms of wrestling that every company and every place that you look for wrestling has a different thing to offer. WWE offers something like main roster WWE offers something different than NXT, which offers something different from Impact, which is different from AEW, different from ROH, different from AAA, CMLL, NJPW, Stardom, Rev Pro. Like, there's so many big companies that have streaming and abilities to watch no matter where you are in the world right now. If you at any point in your life loved wrestling, there is something somewhere in a company right now that will give you what you want and what you enjoy and what you love in wrestling and be able to hook you and keep you interested. You just have to look for it, talk to people, understand the industry, and you should be able to find a company somewhere that is going to fit your tastes as a wrestling fan.
Throwback says it best. Variety is the spice of life. And thank you, Throwback, for joining us. I know you guys were doing a post show on the Pro Wrestling Roundtable, I believe it was, that you guys were working with. So thank you for joining us after that was over. But speaking of, we're just about ending up over here. So we're going to go ahead and throw it to promos. And of course, we're going to start with Astrid. You have the big screen.
The natural star.
I had a feeling. Jeez. Well, what do we have? Well, we have Hard to Kill on Saturday, so I'm really excited to that. 3 ladies matches, so it's pretty excited to see the ladies all involved. So watch out for that. Other than that, watch me on my Twitter. I'll be tweeting whatever I'm watching, like AEW that I'm not here for. So things like that. But being here for NXT again next week, I'm really excited for the post of everything that happened tonight, New Year's Eve. So yeah, that's it.
And when does Scream come out so we can expect your Scream review somewhere on Twitter?
Next weekend.
Okay. And Cody?
I will also be on that Hard to Kill show this Saturday. Myself, Astrid, Mel, and potentially some surprise drop-ins coming in to join us. Anyone who is watching Hard to Kill from the Love Wrestling team and wants to come and share some thoughts with us, we've basically opened the table to the team through our group Love Wrestling chat that I know there's been some interest out there. If you're watching the show and want to join us, shoot us a message. We'll make sure we get everybody that wants to talk about it in there in some way, shape, or form. I'm here for the next few weeks at least for NXT with the team. Work has been crazy. I have just beaten back a cold as I myself am hard to kill, and luckily it was not that 19 Omicron variant that we are hearing so much about. Thursday night, Impact Wrestling, I should be on my Twitter and active because I will be watching live. So if you want to join me in the conversation there, it's right here at Cody Defoe. Join me in talking some wrestling. I'll probably be tweeting about some Wrestle Kingdom stuff as I watch it as well. That follow me on there. Most of my tweets lately are about wrestling. So love to talk wrestling. Anyone who wants to pop into my my comments, my ats, whatever, let me know. Follow me.
And of course, we have me. I will be here next week on NXT because I'm not hard to kill. I'm very easy to kill. I'm not able to watch the Impact show, so I will be joining them in the chat and in spirit. However, I will not be on the show. But you can find me at edfries12584 on Twitter. And you can find me here co-hosting NXT next week as we dive into all of the results from New Year's Evil and everything that comes with it, including we have the crowbar on a pole match between Pete Dunne and Tony D'Angelo. We have the Santos Escobar versus Zion Quinn for the rights to be managed or partnered with Elektra Lopez in her own choice.
We have the 6-woman tag match.
Yes, the disaster of a 6-woman tag. And then we have Boa
versus
Boa as non-superpowered Boa versus Solo Sikoa. We have our friends saying thank you for the show. Thank you all. The two Impact people. Who does Jordan Grace eventually drop the Digital Media Championship to?
Tennille Dashwood.
Ashley, what did you say?
I really don't know, to be honest.
Okay.
I think it'll be Tennille. I think Tennille got pulled from that match last minute and replaced by Madison Rayne with nobody talking about it, nobody mentioning why Tennille wasn't there. I assume it was something to do with the fact that it was in Vegas and maybe she couldn't get there, or vaccination status or something along those lines. There was literally nothing on her Twitter, nothing on Impact's Twitter, nothing during the match that I heard of them talking why Tenille wasn't in the match, that I think she'll be the one that comes around and takes it from Jordan. Oh, and AJ versus Waller.
Yes, AJ versus Waller. I
Our
cannot
main
believe I
event.
forgot the main event. Just want to make sure I go ahead and shout out all the different Love Wrestling platforms you can catch us. You can catch us at twitch.tv/lovewrestlingca. You can go ahead and catch us at youtube.com/lovewrestlingca. That includes things like Josh Robinson's, I can't believe I forgot the name of his series.
Legacy of.
Legacy of, that I've forgotten now 2 weeks in a row. Oh, I'm sorry, Josh. And
The Legacy of, and you got it.
Yes. The Legacy of returns to January 24th with Britt Baker. He announced today that there's also going to be episodes on the Divas Championship, Melina, and Becky Lynch upcoming as well. Remember that you can always get all of your Love Wrestling paraphernalia at lovewrestling.ca/shop. And most importantly, you can now go to our new Love Wrestling shop at whatamaneuver.net/collections/love-wrestling-ca. Don't forget about our Manscaped offer, where you get 20% off your Manscaped order and free shipping when you use the promo code LOVEWRESTLING at manscaped.com. Again, it's free worldwide shipping and 20% off. And if you click on the little box that has the US in it and you click it to Canada, you get your Canadian prices for any of our friends in Canada. And if it's worldwide, you can go ahead and click on all the other different places and get that. We also want to thank our sponsors at RK Athletics, at RK Athletics 1 on Twitter and Instagram. With that being said, I've been Ed, this has been Cody and Astrid, and we are out of time. Have a good night, everybody.